Hello everyone, in this video I'll be teaching you the Englund gambit. We open with d4 and e5, so it's basically a reverse of the Scandinavian defence. So we're going to start this trap as black. From here we have d takes on e5 and knight to c6. So we're adding pressure to the e5 square. Knight to f3, defending the square, and queen to e7. Bishop to f4, defending this square. So the bishop is the only piece left that can defend this pawn. Now, we have queen to b4 with check. Now from here, we're going to cover the two main traps as black, when you block with the queen, or when you block with the bishop. First, queen to d2. Now, we take advantage of this. Queen takes on b2. Now, there is no other way to defend the rook other than queen to c3. But, from here, that was a big mistake. Bishop to b4 wins the queen. Queen takes on b4. Queen takes on b4 with check and bishop to d2. And now from here, you could slide in the queen. But then if that happens, you have to defend the rook. And if bishop comes to c3, this is all over in one move. Queen to c1. So in this position, you have to give up the rook, or it's checkmate. So no matter what you play, if you play a random move, moving the knight, then simply captures, and you have to maneuver the knight to d1. And this is completely losing for white. So, here we are at d takes on e5, knight to c6, and we have knight to f3, queen to e7, and bishop to f4. Once again we have queen to b4 with check. Instead of blocking with the queen this time, we instead block with the bishop, with bishop to d2. Queen captures on b2. Now, the bishop has to defend the rook somehow. This rook is under attack. There are two options from here. Moving the knight over to c3, or the bishop over to c3. Well, first we're going to cover bishop to c3, but actually this is a big mistake. We can take advantage of this, the same thing as we did in the last trap. Bishop to b4, pinning down the bishop. Now, bishop takes on b4, knight takes on b4, and this pawn is double attacked by the knight and the queen. Going back, in this position, with bishop to b4, you might play queen to d2. If so, bishop takes on c3, and you can't take with your queen. If queen takes, simply checkmate, queen to c1. And if you take with your knight, you lose the rook. So losing the rook is better than losing the the king. So you have to give up the rook in this variation. Let's go back. Instead of blocking with the bishop, so when we play queen to b2, queen takes on b2, instead of moving the bishop to c3, instead you should play knight to c3. If knight to c3, then bishop to b4, attacks the knight. And now let's play as white here. We can take advantage of this. Rook to b1, attacking the queen and the bishop. And now we have queen to a3, knight to d5. This bishop is attacked 3 times by our pieces. Also, we're threatening to fork the king and the rook. Bishop takes on d2. And now we have queen takes on d2. King to d8. You're forced to move over to d8 because of the fork. And now we have queen to g5 with check. If queen to g5 with check, then you have to block this. If you block this with your pawn, so let's go for the knight first. If you block this with your pawn, simply knight takes, and then we have queen takes, asking for trade. Then you simply capture, rook slides over to e8, and this is better than doing this. By this, I mean blocking with f6. If you block with f6, simply e takes on f6, g takes on f6, now knight takes on f6, and now, if you take with your knight, with knight takes on f6, then simply queen takes on f6 with check. If you block with your queen, then queen takes on h8, queen blocks on e8, and now from here, you can trade off queens with queen takes on e8 and king takes on e8. So now you're completely winning in this position. You've traded off pieces and your upper pawn and your upper rook. This is a match-winning advantage for white in this position. Now, let's go back. Now, in this position, you could play bishop to a5. Your knight nicely defends this bishop on a5. Then we have rook to b5, attacking the bishop. If bishop to b6, then rook takes on b6, and no matter what pawn you take with, if c takes on b6, then we have knight to c7 with check, king moves to d8, and now we have knight takes on a8, and you've won the rook back. And if you take with your a pawn, if a takes on b6, then we have knight to c7 and king to d8, and now we have knight takes on a8 and queen takes on a8. And the position for black is absolutely shattered. The king is exposed, these pawns are doubled up. This knight is on c6. This is a fine square for the knight. The bishop is blocked in, and these pieces are not developed, and these pawns are still on their same squares. And the queen is on the a8 square. But with white, the pieces aren't really developed, but they're a lot stronger, and you can finish off the game as white from here. This is a better position as white. You can take advantage of this, and now you could probably win the game within a few moves. So you could threaten knight to g5. You could play knight to h6, trying to defend this, and the position for black is exposed, and you're fighting for nothing really, because white is going to easily win the game from here. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video on the Englund gambit. Please remember to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.